This styrofoam head has been in my art room for way too long. It's time to do something with it. Now these heads are very light, and so I am thinking of attaching it to a base. This is a tray that I decorated with an acrylic pour long time ago, so another thing that needs to find a home, and together I think it's a good combination. Here I make some simple lines because I do want to cut into this head, but because I also want to cover it up again, I will first create a door while the head is still in one piece. For that I use some simple paper mache over some cling wrap. I do really enjoy making these videos and sharing my process with you, but I realize more and more that it's really hard to capture the full process of these assemblage pieces, especially when they stand up like this head. So I did a little research to see how other assemblage artists film their process, and honestly, for the most part, they don't. They usually show you their materials, maybe a couple of steps so in between, and then the final result. And I think the reason is that it is very hard to give a full picture of the process, to get all the angles right, unless you have several cameras and know more about filming than I do. On top of that, by the very nature of assemblage, we are usually working with very odd, unusual materials, one of a kind findings. So to give very clear instruction or teaching assemblage is difficult. I think it's more showing possibilities. As you can see here, after I opened it, I used my wood burning tool to create some brain matter. Now, in light of what I was talking about, I will stop apologizing for missing footage or funny angles. My videos will never be perfect, but I hope that you will still embrace your time with me and that you will enjoy watching me create. If I can manage to just loosely pass on some ideas and make my videos inspiring in some ways for some of you, then that's a win in my book. Another little thing I want to explain is the infrequency of my videos throughout this last year. I know I took a really big break and I'm not planning to do that again, but on the other hand, I also will not adhere to a strict schedule. I will just post when I'm ready to do so. One of the reasons is that my projects have become more detailed and more time consuming, and it just takes a while to complete them. And then there is, of course, life that takes time to live. All right, enough of all that. Back to my head. As you can see, I am adding some different colors. I want to somewhat match it a little bit with the substrate I will be using for the stand. So from here on, I will turn you over to some music. I will put anything you need to know in the captions. Enjoy the process, and I will chat with you towards the end. My head is done, and as you can tell, I have already glued it to the little tray. This will give it extra stability because it is a bit top heavy. Now you may notice that the gold looks a bit darker. I tarnished it by using some burnt ember, just a little bit. I wiped off the excess with a soft cloth, and I like it better this way, not quite that bright as before. Now the gold on the eye stayed. Also underneath I used some gold rubber buff, the same I used on the netting. Everything else has the copper. Now I love the contrast, not just in color but also in texture. Another reason I use the netting over the big part of her face is so I wouldn't lose her features, because as you can tell, she doesn't have a super great profile, and if I would have covered it completely in doodads, I would have completely lost her face. So this way I think it looks much better. I like the dividing line with the chain, and of course all the many details. For the most part I use jewelry bits and charms, but there are handyman items as well, like the wing nuts. And of course this little grill here came from some electronic device. Back here, the stick I will explain in a moment. Now between all the jewelry pieces I have of course some hidden gems, and I will point out a few. There is of course a Dreamcatcher earring with the little chains. There is a big butterfly. We have a fish, we have a little teddy bear, we have a bat. Down here we have a crown, we have strawberries, snowflakes, keys. Up here we have the big fly, of course. There's a bow, there's a crow's hat, and a few others. So this is the outside of my head. I really had fun working on it, and I had to use a lot of smaller items in order to keep this round shape and not distort it too much, and I think it worked out pretty well. But now of course to the reveal. I didn't show you how I decorated the inside here except the coloring and putting in the texture, but you have seen me do some miniatures before, and if you have any questions just ask me in the comments. All right, here it is. And of course, before I go any further, the little stick is to keep it open in case somebody wants to display it this way. For now, I will set it aside. So the lid says, "Be bold. Every possibility begins with the courage to imagine. Be unexpected. Be you." Here's a close-up of a very busy brain. I had lots of fun putting this together, and I had of course some symbolism in mind. I will point it out really quick. Experimentation, seeing yourself without a mask, self-reflection in the mirror, the key to finding what makes you tick, light bulb for good ideas, star, shoot for the stars, the wisdom of owls, butterflies, enjoy the pretty things, flowers, don't forget to smell the flowers, lots of books and scrolls, learning, knowledge, a very busy desk. There is a map, there's some paperwork, there are some rulers to figure things out, there's a hammer, if something is broken we fix it. There is of course a telescope. It goes straight down into the eye. Then there's a little telephone, and its wire goes straight down into the ear. Of course we need to use our senses all the time. Now the real precious things are kept in a special place. There's a little drawer with a tiny heart. The little gear represents movement and time. And the little shovel, sometimes we have to dig deep. So here is a very, very busy brain, a very creative brain. And so when it closes, you can't really tell that there's an opening. And that was, of course, my goal, and I think I achieved that. So the little stick will live in the back here. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I try to be back as soon as I can. Take care.